Hello and welcome to the Liverpool Way podcast. The Reds have advanced to the FA Cup quarter-finals after an excellent second-half showing, secured a 4-3 aggregate win over Wolves at Molineux. Yes, we're still pretending Tuesday night didn't happen. A special strike from Andy Robertson got things started, Mo Salah doubled the advantage and Curtis Jones scored with a late solo effort. However, it was the exciting performance of young Rio Ngumoha that really caught the eye after terrorising the Wolves backline with his pace and quick feet. I'm Chris Smith. Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed after a trip to Molineux last night, and I'm joined by TLW editor Dave Usher and Paul Natton, who are here to talk about another Wolves game after the mysterious disappearance of the pod they recorded on Wednesday. Dave, more of the same in the first half, really, but the second half was much more like it. Pretty good, that.
Yeah, I think the first half was a bit better. Not really creating chances and stuff, because it didn't really create anything other than Rio. It was like, if we were going to do anything, it was him. Like, no one else was really threatening. But what was a bit different, and I think Robbo alluded to it in the interview afterwards, we weren't necessarily always winning tackles and winning the ball, but there was an intent there to do it. You know, there was definitely more aggression. So I think they were probably embarrassed and pissed off about what happened the other night and wanted to show a response. And I think they did show a response, but again, the first half not massively different to what we're usually seeing. You know, it feels like, especially away from home, it feels like that every single game is, yeah, we've got loads of the ball and we're just not really doing much with it. The one exception to that was Forest, which was just abysmal. We didn't even have the ball, but it opens up a bit in the second half, which probably comes because we scored. Like, that opens up the game a bit, and once it got to that point, like, then that's how it should look. Like, I would say that game last night is how it should look. And it makes it all the more baffling and infuriating that it didn't look like that on Tuesday night. Because that was routine. I mean, at half time, the stats were really funny. You look at it and it was like Wolves, no shots on target, no shots. Possession was like off the charts for us. Like, touches in the opposition box. Everything was like, I think we'd had 11 shots. Most of them were from outside the box, to be fair, not like chances as such, but it was complete dominance without really looking like scoring. And then the second half, it carried on like that, but we got the goals to show for it. And in the end, it's like, it's a routine win, and we're seeing things like Kieran Morrison getting on for the last 5 minutes and stuff, you know. And I'm like, yeah, this is what it's supposed to be. You're in a position like this, and you can put these lads on in those, you know, give them a bit of a run out and stuff, and we just have not seen it like anywhere near enough this season.
Take Verge off as well, which is like again, something that you never see, and it's nice to have the luxury of doing instead of chasing the game or desperately trying to defend something in the last 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, Mo comes off, which probably Ramadan related as well, you know, so it's good for him that he good for him that he got his goal before he came off, because I think he'd have been properly pissed off if he was brought off not on a goal, but he seemed okay getting brought off. He understands the situation. So yeah, it was everything that you would want was there. Even a goal from Robbo.
And Paul, yeah, I mean, we'll come to that later, because I want to talk more generally about Robbo, but Paul, Rio, there's been a lot of pressure this week, namely from Stevie G, about the idea that he's got to get a start in the team now, and he's had an impact in every game he's come on into in the last few weeks. And yeah, he was rewarded with the start, and sort of everything good that we did, and certainly in the first half, came through him. It almost looked like the rest of our team were deferring to him a little bit and doing that thing, you know, that's wise to do with wingers, is get the ball early to them in situations where they can be one-on-one. And I thought it was just a really exciting performance from him last night, and a really well-boding sign of things to come.
Yeah, I enjoyed last night. I mean, obviously, part of that was like a few of us were out. We went to the pub to watch it and had a bite to eat in town, so that was good. It was just good to a group of us to get together, which always helps if you're watching the Reds these days, I think, because it can be a demoralising experience watching it on your own on the telly sometimes with some of these poor away performances. But Rio was definitely one of the things that I enjoyed. As you said, I mean, first half, pretty much everything was going down that side, which I'm fine with. You know, if you've got him there, he's something different from Tuesday night. try and exploit that, go for it, and particularly as it was bearing some fruit. You know, it wasn't like we were creating a load of like really strong chances and threat down that side, but it was drawing attention, it was pulling the team that way. I mean, I think obviously it's still very much in its infancy having him over on that side, but I think what it showed already is that you can pull teams over towards him because he's so quick with his feet and his movements and his trickery at going past players. And could go either side. There's an unpredictability about him, and that leaves opponents twitchy already. You can see they were occasionally trying to double up on him as well, which is amazing.
Second half exclusively, they doubled up on him.
yeah. I mean, I think as things move forward, you would hope that you pull teams over that way, and that creates space on the other side. Although Dave and I, as we were watching last night, both spotted how Mo was still quite isolated out on the right and quite wide on the right rather than tucking in more when the ball went that way, and that struck me a little bit that was playing to instructions. And certainly if you look in the second half, Mo's position came slightly more central. He was less isolated, and I thought that was interesting. There's clearly been a little bit of a tweak there. In terms of Rio overall, Dave and I talked about this on the Ghost Pod Mark II on Wednesday night when we recorded that I still, even not last night notwithstanding, I still feel that this is one of the few things that, in my opinion, Slotter's got completely right. Because we've just seen how so many teenage prodigies who play first team football end up like with long-term damage to their bodies and curtailed careers because they play too much too soon. Rio is, I'm very dubious about Slot's belief in young players. I'm quite cynical about his attitude to young players, but I don't think it's that. I don't think it's caution about what he can offer on the pitch, which has made Slot be more reticent about starting him. I think it probably is about protecting him a little bit. It'd be the easiest thing in the world to give in to all the clamour and throw him straight into the team every week when Gakpo's playing the way he is, and people like Stevie are making those sorts of comments. Stevie's forgotten there that he had all sorts of growing pains. He came through a year older, at least a year old. He was 18, wasn't he, Stevie? Yeah. When he first got his appearance, and Stevie had growing pain issues for his first 2-3 years. I mean, people were speculating early in Stevie's career that he was injury prone. He had all the groin issues. There was all sorts going on, and then things settled down when he reached sort of 22, 23.
Michael as well, though.
Yeah,
he came through at the same age, and look what happened to him.
Look what happened to him, absolutely. Wayne Rooney didn't have like loads of injury issues, but he was done by the time he was 30, really. Which is these days feels young for a player to finish. I suppose the only one I can think of who's come in as a teenager and in recent years and established a place almost straight away and not really had too many physical issues is Trent. Although you might argue now. You might argue that it is starting to catch up with him now because he's had a few, hasn't he?
Milner he came through at the same time as Rooney and he's still playing.
That's right. I mean, and he
wasn't born though; he was forged.
Yeah, that's right, and was also a freak in terms of mindset. So yeah, Rio, very exciting. I like his physicality. He's clearly done some work in the gym on his body. He's obviously like grown physically just naturally. He's taller since last season. I think he's put on an inch or two in height, but his shoulders are bigger, his upper body's becoming bigger, and I think you're going to need that. We were chatting last night. I listened to various pods about Liverpool and football in general. When it mentions Liverpool, I don't tend to listen to stuff that's more general unless there's a particular theme which links to us. But I listened to a pod, can't remember which one it was, might have been The Athletic, where they were doing an analysis of the way the game is going in terms of set pieces and the stuff and the low blocks and all the stuff that all of us are finding difficult to watch this season. And they were talking about there really being only really two ways that teams are coming up with of addressing a low block. One is the Arsenal approach, which is this: just you play for set pieces, you go physical. Excuse me, and that's your entire approach. The other, particularly as teams, as well as having low blocks, are also starting to man-to-man mark in the Premier League. There's a lot of man-to-man marking when you come a little bit out of defence. Teams, the other way to address that is to have really good 1v1 players, particularly in the wide positions. And that, I mean, Slot traditionally, that's what he's... Again, Dave and I were chatting about this last night. Slot traditionally, that's something he's done. He's had players like that in his teams, and that's worked well for him. And if we're moving in that direction, I think that could be a solution. I mean, I certainly think, you know, that Diamandi lad that we're looking at, he looks like that. Rio looks like that. But I also like the fact that both of them have got like a little bit of... Or Rio's developing it, Diamandi's got it, like physicality as well. I think what we might see is wingers who almost go back to like the 90s style of winger, where really they're not goal scorers like Sadio and Mo. Although they will get some goals, but they won't be goals in those numbers. What they'll do is they'll get round behind defences, and the ball will come in for a number 9 to score. So I hope that gives us some indication of a way forward, and I think Rio could be part of that. This idea that like Rio has to start every game, I'm not buying that at all. Even though I loved what I saw last night, I don't want this lad to be kind of like, you know, we play him now to the end of the season and then he struggles in pre-season, or he misses the starter next, or there's a knock on a year down the line. I think while he's growing, we should be really, really careful, because growth is not just about bone development, is it? It's about your muscles adjusting as well. And we know how susceptible, like, you know, fast players are to muscle injuries. So if you play him too much while he's having muscle growth as well as bone development, you know, he could be in real trouble. But very exciting, and looks like exactly what the team, the club, the fans, all of us want and need. So yeah, I really enjoyed watching Rio last night. It was good to see, and yeah, it was good that he got some plaudits when he came off as well. Really, really nice.
Dave, one thing I noticed about Rio last night was it injected like something that we've been really missing all season, and that's a little bit of fear factor in our attacking play. Like, there's been nothing really to fear from us this season, in terms of, certainly from our wide player, and quite often from the midfield as well. It's all been very much, you know, teams are able to contain us, but Wolves were just terrified of him last night. Like, in the second half, they decided to double up on him exclusively. But in the first half, you just knew they weren't going to try and tackle him. He had a free run into the box every time he wanted, and all they wanted to do was block his end product, which they did most of the time. And we didn't have that much through the middle anyway. But like, just in terms of having that fear factor back in our play again, first time maybe this season we've seen that.
Yeah, I mean, how long have I been saying, like, our biggest problem really is the wide players, because the way we play, it's like, if you're going to play the way we play, it relies on that. And if you haven't got that, you take that away, there's the 1v1 ability to make something happen, or even draw extra players over. If you lose that, it makes everything else so much harder. Now, I'm not saying like that's our only problem, and if you fix that, everything's rosy again. No, but I do think it's the biggest problem in terms of our attack and play. And then I watched the video the other night. 2 videos actually. Adam Cleary done a piece on our tactics, which it was nothing that we didn't know, but the way he put it across was it was really informative. The gist of that was the reason why we're having these struggles in the second half and games go mad and then it's in stoppage time and it's end to end is because we know we're not great at that. We're vulnerable in those kind of scenarios where it's like we attack, you attack. We've been caught out quite a bit. So because of that, we're playing a different way in the first half, which is just control it, keep the ball. But we don't pose enough of a threat, and then we have to open it up, and then that's when it gets wild. But the reason why we don't pose enough of a threat is because, like, probably 75% of what we're doing is probably what Slot's wanting us to do. But that 25 is in the final third, somebody just beating somebody and creating space for others. And we haven't had it. Like, we had it last season. You know, Mo was delivering last season to unprecedented levels until it caught up with him a bit and he dropped off. But we've not had it this season, you know. And Gakpo last season had Diaz breathing down his neck, so he wasn't playing every game. And even when he was playing, he knew Diaz is there. And all of a sudden, like, those two are playing every single game, no matter what, because there's no other options. And I'm including Rio in that because Rio's not really an option for the reasons Paul mentioned. Slot has handled that well, I think. there's times when he could have put him on earlier in better situations. I would definitely say that. But by and large, the number of minutes he's played for the age he is, I think that's fine. And I don't want us to get into like the scenario now where people are like, oh, he's got to start the next game, he's got to start the next game. No, I don't even want him starting every other game, but he needs protecting. You know, if you want to have this talent down the line, handle him properly now, protect him now. And Slot, the easiest thing in the world would be under pressure manager. Everyone's clamouring for this to happen. It would have been so easy for him to just put Rio in, and he hasn't. And he's not done it because he's scared of putting young players in, which I do think he is. I'm not so much scared, I just don't think he's got any interest in doing that. It's not really his job. He's a head coach. His job's to get results now. He's not looking 5, 6, 7 years down the line. So, in general, I think that's a fair point. With Rio, I don't think that's the case at all. I think he knows he could come in and play, but it's not the best thing for Rio's development, so he's not done it. And I praise him for that, because it's such an easy thing when you're getting fucking pelters from everyone. Why are you playing Gakpo every game? He must know. He must watch Gakpo and think, fucking hell. You know, I know we joke about Son of Slot and all that, but he's not stupid. He knows. So he probably would desperately love to have somebody else if he could put in instead of Gakpo. Now, that is Rio, but it's not the best thing to do. But you do see, when you see what happened last night, it's like, well, I was saying to Paul, in the summer, I would be buying 3 wingers. Above all else, that would be my priority. I would go and get 3 wingers. So you've got them 3, and you've got Rio, and you can rotate them. And you've always got someone on the pitch who's going to cause murder, put the shits up people, beat people, create space for others, get balls into the box, you know, low crosses into the box. That's how Slot wants to play, and you can't do that when your wide players are just not capable of beating anyone. And the other video I was referencing was touching on that same point, really, which was it was Redmen TV. It was Chris and Paul on there. I watched that after the game, but I also watched one with Chris and Josh Williams talking about that, and it's all been like really good, and it just reinforces what you see in yourself, and then you see like other people talking about it, and you're like, yeah, well, that's what I was thinking. Now they're saying it as well, and yeah, it all makes sense. And to me, it's like the wide forwards, and when you've got that, you realise what you've been missing. And last night's game was not. We didn't win 3-0 because Rio Ngumoha was on the pitch.
3-1.
Sorry, yeah, 3-1. But it did make it feels like 3-0 because that last one just was like nothing. But we'll get to that, I'm sure. But yeah, if it makes a difference, and it changes the mood. It just you're more engaged when you're watching it. You think something could happen here, you know. Yeah, whereas most of the time you're sitting there going, nothing's going to happen. So having a player who's doing that it does make a difference, and we've not had it all season really, and it shows when you see last night. And again, it's only Wolves. And that game went the way you would expect it to, but then you got to ask the question: well, why didn't it the other night? And part of that, not the only reason by any means, but part of it is because of that lack of threat out wide.
I think it definitely opens up the questions about the summer yet again. I mean, Dave and John particularly were both vociferously critical about the Isak signing, which I respect. You know, that's absolutely fine. My view was, I think their mindset was they always wanted both players. I think they felt they could wait for one of them and then realised that they couldn't. So I think they felt they could wait for Ekatika and then realised that they were both he was going to go. They also had the Arsenal interest in Isak, and they thought, right, we want both of these. It's now or never. So we'll put as Dave has laid out before, they almost certainly had Semenyo lined up. That deal didn't then happen because they went for the 2 number 9s. Now I can live with that if that's like a short-term decision to say it's now or never on these 2 players. We think that both of them can be absolutely like world class for us for the next at least 5 years, if not longer. But if we don't do it now, we won't get them, and someone else will get them, which might strengthen a rival as well as weaken us. Okay, I can accept that. But what I found really difficult was then they've clearly changed their mind about Semenyo in the January transfer window. Now again, it looks to me, I mean, obviously I don't know this is just me looking at the circumstantial evidence and trying to see a strategy within there, but then I unlike a lot of people might suggest, I don't think they're just floundering around in the dark and just making wild decisions, sticking pins in spreadsheets. There is some semblance of strategy there, Whether the strategy is the right one or not is another matter, but then it's not just random stuff. It looks like they've seen Diamande and they've thought, actually, we're going to pivot. The way he's kicked on in the first half of the season, we're going to pivot to him in the summer over Semenyo. Now, clearly, he's younger than Semenyo. They obviously think he's got a higher ceiling, and when you see how he's playing at 19, that doesn't look like a wild thought at all. But all I would say is that what that's done is left us in this position without effective wide players. Obviously, they didn't foresee in the summer the fall off from Mo, but they did know that in the January window. And I just think it's a really, really, really big risk. And it'll only be the effectiveness of that risk will only be proven when we realise what's happened with the Champions League qualification, because that really is the fundamental issue. If this decision ultimately means that we miss out on the Champions League next season and, you know, roughly £100 million worth of money, that's a huge blow for us when our whole model is based on that.
We've been there before, though, haven't we, Paul? Like they take this risk quite a lot with, like, you know, we've seen it a bunch of times in January where there's been a lot of injuries in the squad, or there's needs.
I think the stakes are higher now, though, Chris.
I think Canate, didn't he?
I think the stakes are higher in this situation, in that you know, we were poised. We were looking at dominating. We were coming off a title win. We've got other teams who are ascendant and strong, who are all spending huge amounts of money as well. And I just think it's more competitive.
Huge amounts of money, though.
Say again, sorry.
We've spent huge amounts of money.
Yeah,
as well.
no, exactly. But everyone is spending, so it's more competitive. So I think I just feel that, like, the stakes have gone up. And the other thing as well that we've definitely seen is that the floor of the Premier League has come up. The quality from the bottom is higher. You know, everyone has got. We've seen it with Wolves this week.
Massively so, yeah.
Yeah, they've got technical, strong, fast, well-coached players. Now, they're the worst team in the Premier League currently, but that doesn't mean that, relatively speaking, in the history of the league, they're shit. The floor has come right up. The ceiling has dropped a little bit, I think, but what's compressed it is the floor has come much higher. And I think that competitiveness, we're back to this idea that, you know, we've lost 9 times in whatever number of games it is so far this season. Is it 29? We've lost 9 and 20 or something like that. And that, to me, isn't. And the teams around us have lost sort of 5, 6, 7s. That is indicative of, you know, that old adage about the Premier League, anyone can beat anyone. It really is true now. For a while, that seemed to be just something people said. You know, in the Liverpool City dominant seasons, that really wasn't the case, but it's coming back to that again now. And I just think you take that risk, you allow someone else to nip in and take that money. You also curtail your own development. I think the risks are higher now. I mean, we'll see, won't we?
Well, Paul, let me ask you something then. I'm not saying I disagree with any of that, like the Diamande Semenyo thing in particular, but if you take that strategic decision to do that and you take that risk, what does that say in terms of the manager? And are they going to slot, look, don't worry about this, there's reasons for it, we know there's reasons for the way it's gone, we've not got you the wide players you need, we're not going to throw you under the bus because we've not brought those players in, and then he's safe until they get him the players he needs? Or is it, well, he's probably not the guy, let's not spend the money now, let's just proceed with the plan, and if he's a casualty of that, then so be it? What do you think that's going to be?
So the way, I mean, my experience of dealing with, of working with and around what I would term suits, you know, people who just kind of, like, their job is they don't actually work directly at this, at the coalface, so to speak, they just push pieces around on a board. They tend to be, they think of themselves as superior to everybody else. They think of themselves as these sort of strategic overlords, and they tend to ignore the human side of things most of the time. They're also very much about, London rules, that slow horses idea of, London rules, you cover your own arse. Moscow rules, you cover your back. London rules, you cover your own arse. And that's what suits are about. In my experience, I've dealt with a lot of them at different roles at different levels. They're primarily about covering their own arse, and they're not really interested in individual people in any sense.
In answer to Dave's question,
I'm getting there, Chris. So what I think their view would be is there's a certain degree of latitude in terms of, yes, we've let him down, but the absolute floor for that is 5th. the model is the be all and the end all. I think they will just think, yeah, okay, maybe we'll let him down, but we would still expect with that squad of players for him to get top 5. And if he doesn't get top 5, he's gone. I also think, though, there'll be further doubts about performances. It's not just about results. When you look at the two together, they'll start to think, this is not really what we signed up for. Yes, there's been lots of peripheral issues that he's been unlucky with. Yes, there's been things where we've not given him exactly what he needs. Yes, we've taken the squad quite thin. But we're paying this guy a lot of money. He won the league last season. We expect more than this. Also, Richard Hughes chopped Gary O'Neill like 3 games into a season. He had no qualms about doing that. And Gary O'Neill was seen as having done a decent job at Bournemouth.
Also seen as his mate, I think.
Yeah,
I think
saw somebody better. So yeah, he saw somebody better, didn't he, in Iraola, and that was borne out. Iraola clearly was better than Gary O'Neill. So I still feel that they are. I think Slot is very much in trouble in the summer. I do, there's no way of knowing, is there? But that's what my gut tells me, because my experience of people like this is that they don't give a fuck about individuals. They'll just do what they think is strategically right, but also covers their own arse.
Dave, do you want to quickly come in on that? Where's your head at the moment on it?
No, I haven't really got any thoughts on it. I don't know. I've got no idea what they're thinking, and I know, like, I've spoke to different people, and they'll be like, no, surely, like, Alonso's out there, this hasn't been good, they're just going to let the season play out and then they'll do it. And maybe that's the case, but I don't know. I can't say what the right thing to do is. I know what, I think the right thing to do is, which would be, I would roll the dice on Alonso. Now, if Alonso's not out there, I'd be in much less of a rush to make a decision on Slot. I'm not thinking he's shit, get rid of him. It's not that. But in some ways, it's like with players, and I don't know why it's different with managers. So, not wanting to go down the whole Darwin thing, but like as an example, most people are like, oh, well, if you can get rid of Darwin and bring in Isak, fucking do it. Why wouldn't you do it? You can get better, go and get better. So the same logic applies now. There's loads of people saying about move Curtis on, you can do better than Curtis Jones or whatever. Well, okay. So your logic is move him on because you can get better. Are you telling me that you cannot get better than Arne Slot? So is he the best manager in the world then? Is that... So you can't make that decision. Why is it really different with a player and a manager? It's if there's someone out there who you think he's... Now, if you don't think Alonso's better than him, that's totally fine. That no problem with that. We don't know. We don't know what Alonso would be like if he came in. Now, I'm thinking he probably is better, and I would take that chance. There's no guarantee that it'd be a success. He could come in and be shit. We don't know that. Whoever you bring in, there's an element of risk to it. But it's the same with players as well. Look, as Isak give us more than Darwin would have, even when he played, not just with the injuries. No, but people looked at that and gone, clearly better, get him in, get him out. Well, how is it different with managers? While Alonso's sitting there and all other top clubs who will have a vacancy would be looking at him as like probably the number one choice, and you're going, no, we've got Arne Slot, we'll just carry on. So that's where I think it makes sense to make the change. But will they do it? I've got less faith in them making like the right decision, if you like, than other people seem to have. I do not trust them to make the right decision. So it's up to them to prove to me that they can. I know people are going about Michael Edwards this, Michael Edwards that, but I said it before, Michael Edwards was nothing until Jurgen Klopp came, and then every signing looks great. Which, you've still got to bring in the right players, and he did. He did a good job as well, getting fees for players who we moved on. But again, part of that is because they were playing in a Jurgen Klopp team, and they look better than they actually are. It was like nearly everybody punched above the weight when they were playing for Klopp. So players who leave Klopp tend to drop off.
Yeah.
And so you're selling like Ryan Brewster, and you're getting like 20 million quid or whatever it was, and he's no good. But the fact he was around the Klopp squad and people thought he must be good. Jordan Ibe, all these players, like Klopp put him in the team, looked really promising, and then look how it goes. So Michael Edwards was nothing without Slot, and he's got to prove to me. Without Klopp. Klopp's not here now. He's got to prove he is what people say he is. And I feel like now he can hide behind the fact, Richard Hughes is the sporting director, it's not me. Like, no, Richard Hughes can't wipe his arse without clearing it with you first. You wanted to be big boss of football. You are. So the buck stops with him, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's come back to last night's game a little bit as well. Speaking of the idea of it being okay to just move on from a player that has served you well and has won things, like we got a rare start for Andy Robertson last night, and I think you can, you mentioned, Dave, that there was a little bit more bite in the tackles and that kind of thing, and a little bit more intent to get among them. I think inherently, not this is not a slight at Kirkhouse, but inherently having Robbo in the team inspires that kind of attitude going into it.
He's a talker, isn't he? That would be the Kirkhouse is the tackler and gets stuck in, but Robbo will make sure everyone else is doing it as well.
Yeah.
Right, and it was really nice to see him out there getting a start last night. I went with my mum to the game last night, and Robbo's kind of like in her top 3 all-time favourite players. I'm sure he is with a lot of people, but the fact that she got to go and see him last night and score as well, like she's only 5'2", but she had like the upper tier at Wolves was such that it's dead roomy. Actually, it's kind of like completely different to Anfield, where before you stood up all game and just kind of packed in, especially my big ass. But it was just really nice for her to be at the end where that goal went in and see him running towards us and stuff, and just another reminder of just what a great servant he's been. Like, what a player he's been for us. Like, he should have had more minutes this year. But I was just kind of really thrilled for her that she got to go and see him score, which will probably be for the last time. She doesn't get to the game very often as well. Like, I think there's a chance I'll never see him play for us again either, because, when it comes to Spurs, Kirkhouse will be straight back in and probably there'll be no Robbo off the bench. So, I'm dealing with this a little bit at the moment. Like, I felt like pangs of emotion when Salah was walking around the field after the West Ham game, and you're just thinking, like, your time of seeing these all-time greats who sit among the pantheon of Liverpool legends from throughout history. Really, you're starting to realise that it's over, and you're seeing them for the last time, and coming in their place are that could still be proved, but coming in their place are players that you don't really have any great affection for. Like, their character doesn't really stand out. Like, there's not that wonderful affinity where you sort of really look up to them. They're just dudes. So I loved seeing Robbo out there last night. I hope
there was an element of
the end of the season.
There was an element of the last hurrahs last night, even though I don't think it ultimately will be with Mo's goal, wasn't there? And did you get onto the? I don't know if you've seen it. You probably won't have seen it in the ground last night. I don't know if you've caught up on any of the footage this morning, but there's a really nice moment between the two of them where their faces are just like painted with these big smiles, and you just get this sense of everything that they've been through together. These two absolute legends of the club, and one lays a goal on for the other one. It was really nice to see, I thought, and it did. I don't see how any Red can watch that and not simultaneously think, how lucky we've been to have players of that stature and brilliance, but also feel a little bit wistful about this kind of changing of the guard that's underway that so far feels very, very, very underwhelming. Title win last season notwithstanding. I mean, I think I in terms of Robbo's performance, there was all the hallmarks of his in cameo of his greatness, wasn't there? There was like the lung busting runs, cutting inside. There was the fantastic cross, as Dave said. There was the talking. It was just in isolation. It was like one of those all action Robbo performances with a little bit of everything. A goal, an assist. It was just. I felt very similar to you watching it there. I just thought, is this the last big appearance by Robbo before we lose him? And that'll be sad. Although, as he said himself in his interview after the game, inevitable. I thought she annoyed me. The woman on BBC who interviewed him, she pressed him a number of times on wanting to talk about. She wanted him to say he was pissed off he'd not had enough minutes. And he was really magnanimous and humble, and the kind of guy that we know he is, in the way he handled that question. She must have asked him the same question 3 different ways after he'd answered it twice previously. She wanted him to really to just say, it's shit, I should have played more, and he wasn't prepared to do that. He said he understands this is the way the game is. He praised Kirkhouse, who's been playing well, he felt, and there's a real dignity about him, and a great man as well as a great player. And it was just I think last night was a bit of a moment, and if it was the moment, then great for you and your mum to be there and see it, and I was just glad to catch it on telly. It was fantastic.
Yeah, really nice. I mean, speaking of Kirkes, Dave, we saw a little bit of some of the stuff that we haven't necessarily seen from him in terms of the way that Robbo really helped out. Helped that Gakpo, wasn't out there like not passing to anybody and just ignoring him. But there was a nice little bit of interplay between the fullback and the winger that we haven't really seen that much this year. And Robbo made life a lot easier for Rio with his runs in that, certainly in the first half, and then the cross for Mo for the second. Trademark Robbo as well, like something that it was Robbo with the cross, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
am I getting that right? Yeah. So just trademark Robbo really, and that's something that we haven't seen enough from Kirkes at all. Is like getting into that position and getting his fucking head up and actually looking for a red shirt rather than keeping his head down and popping it into nowhere. I mean, hopefully that'll come with him because he's still young and stuff, but. Like fucking hell, we've missed both of those things this season. The interplay between the fullback and the wide player, and the fullback bombing on and actually getting his cross in. And I did think there was a little bit. You mentioned that Robbo was really sort of magnanimous in his post match interview and stuff. I haven't seen that, but I thought there was a little bit of something in his celebration last night that said to me like, yeah.
The expression.
Agreed.
Yeah, I deserve.
Especially after the goal.
Right. And then when he was running back to the halfway line, who's fired there? Is that you, Dave?
No, it's my elbow on the table.
Oh, I thought it was
on
this chair.
All right, fair enough. And when he's running back to the halfway line, like everybody's singing his name, obviously, and he's kind of whipping that up a little bit as well. Did that come across on TV? Like he's looking at the crowd and sort of whipping up that chance of his name as well. No. So I thought that was kind of indicative of how he believes he's been handled this year in terms of how often he's played and the respect he's been given in terms of the really kind of bombed out, really.
Yeah. He would never say it because he's old school, which is why he says what he says in the interviews, but that's not necessarily what he actually thinks. I mean, I'm sure to some degree he accepts, okay, Kirk has his first choice and this is football and stuff, which is true. But me and Paul spoke about this the other night, and like I'm probably higher on Kirkes than probably anyone else on the pod. But even I will sit here and say Robbo should have played a lot more than he has. Now, I'm not saying Robbo should still be first choice, but Robbo should have had a lot more minutes. And one thing that I would say as well, I haven't got numbers to back this up. It's just a feeling. I feel as though Robbo has not had the same amount of minutes backing up Kirkes that Tsimikas had backing up Robbo. I feel like Costa's probably had more minutes than Robbo's been getting this season. Now that might be completely wrong. That's the impression that I have, because it just feels like he hardly ever plays. And there's games where you would expect that change to be made, and it hasn't been. And like I keep going back to the one when I think it was Chelsea and Kirkes got subbed. He'd not had a good game. And Slot said afterwards, he's played 3 games in a week and it caught up with him. I'm like, well, fucking hell. You've got Andy Robertson there. Yeah. It's not like you've got nobody else to put in. Andy Robertson's there and you've not picked him. You've played Kirkes 3 games in a week and then at the end of the 3rd game, he's goosed and he has to come off. So I don't understand why Robbo hasn't played more. I think he's been treated fairly shabbily for a legend who's still got plenty in the tank. Is he still peak Robbo? No, not if he's playing every week, but still, if you're bringing him in and you see what you get from him, he should have had more games. And watching him last night, it's sad to think what we're going to lose. And again, this comes down to me, it's like there's certain things don't show up on spreadsheets, and a lot of the qualities Andy Robertson's got will not be showing up on all of these, like the data and that they've got on other left backs who they'll bring in.
Mm-hmm. Just look at those 2 moments of quality for Andy Robertson. What a fucking great strike for the goal. Fucking brilliant finish. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah. And the cross, the ball in for Mo, stretching, and knew exactly where Mo was. He's on the stretch, perfectly on a plate for Mo, knew where he'd be, that they've played together for, best part of 10 years. But absolute quality when in the big moments. I mean, that's those 2 moments for me tell you everything you need to know about Andy Robertson, he's fucking superb. The best left back we've ever had, I think.
Yeah.
I didn't think I would ever rate anybody above Steve Nicol, but Robbo, who I know play both sides, but Robbo for me is comfortably the best left back we've had.
I don't even think it's close.
Fantastic.
I don't think it's close.
Yeah.
I think it's
Agreed.
He's outstanding.
Agreed.
Did you see his TNT interview? I haven't seen the BBC one, but I've seen the TNT one, which is really good. And he said, like, when he was lining up to take the shot, he said, no doubt, like, all the away fans were looking at that going, oh, this is going over the bar. So he's fully aware of the fact that, like, most fans would be like, no, don't shoot, Robbo. But that was a great goal.
13 goals for us. I was surprised they had that many. I don't. That feels like more than I expected. That's like a couple of seasons, isn't it?
Yeah, that's about right. He does get about
maybe
2-3 a season.
They just felt few and far between to me in my mind, but then we know what my mind is. But yeah, great. Love him, absolutely love him. Who couldn't?
Your mum said he's top 3. He'd be top 5 for me in most loved players ever. He's definitely in my top 5.
Mum's is Robbie, Sammy, and Andy.
Nice.
Yeah, which is nice. Yeah, I think Robbie was like the first player that she ever like fell in love with. I think like didn't really take much of an interest in footy until like seeing how much it affected me and my moods and that kind of stuff. So she started taking an interest then, and that was around the Robbie time. So yeah, brilliant. And it's just like footy's all about like when different watching on TV, but when you go, it's all about who you go with and who you see there and like who you chat to in the ground and that kind of stuff, isn't it? And just like I was really grateful for the opportunity to go with my mum, because it doesn't happen very often anymore. And for like 10 years, from like mid-90s to when I left Liverpool in about 2007 to go live in London, we sort of went together every week, and kind of like the sort of sacrifices she made in order to get those tickets for us every week. And it's something that I wasn't quite au fait with at the time, because you're a teenager and you're not, and like what goes into getting you to every home game, the coach ticket, the ticket itself, the chips at the ground, all this kind of stuff. Like basically she just poured her entire like earnings into me and her doing this every other weekend. So Mother's Day just around the corner, it was really nice for us to be able to do that again, and jump on the train and go to Wolves and just have a day, or have an evening together. And nice to see a really, really good win and stuff, and to see her really sort of joyous at Andy's goal and stuff. Just those are the things you hold on to and that you remember. It's not like, probably won't think too much about Curtis's goal, or certainly not the consolation or anything else about that. What I'll take away from that is that she got to see that goal, and it just sort of thrilled her and made her really happy. So, yeah, really pleased with that.
Great stuff. Shout out to Sheila.
Nice. So, Dave, as you said earlier on, the first goal is what opened it up, really. Came relatively early in the second half, and it brought them out a little bit, because it looked like they were just purely going by the plan that they had in the league game, and that was just to sit in until we had to come out and then capitalise on it. And at half time, you didn't rule out exactly the same thing happening again as it happened the other night. So good to get that second while we're on top as well. And I don't know how it came across on TV, but that didn't look offside to me at all. Like, was it even close?
I didn't think it was. No. On first view, and I thought he was behind the ball, and it turns out he was behind the ball. Mm-hmm. But it's quite close, and it is difficult for the linesman when like the ball's moving at that speed, and Mo's ahead of the defender, so the linesman's obviously looked at that and thought, yeah, that's offside, because he's ahead of the defenders, but he's behind the ball. So, but I just think that. You mentioned the Wolves' approach to it. I thought it was a little bit strange, because they had some joy against us the other night when they went for it, when they brought those two subs on and they had a go. And I'm watching them in the first half, and they offered nothing. Like the other night, in the first 10 minutes, they had a go, and then they just sat in and didn't really do anything. But last night, they did nothing, and I felt like, you're showing us too much respect here. You beat us the other night. We're not that good. And you're playing this as though you're playing like the champions. But I actually think it was the way we played. They couldn't get out, because I think we did have much more intensity than we've been playing with.
Edwards said as much afterwards, I think, Dave.
Did he? Yeah. So there you go. I mean, it was. I think we went out with like a point to prove after what had happened the other night, and Wolves just didn't have the quality to get out. because it was complete domination. As I say, not loads of chances, but you look at the stats at half time, and it was like that's a completely one-sided game, which it was. But I'd said to Paul probably about 5 minutes in, I said we'll win this 3-0, and then at half time when those stats came up, I was like, you know what's going to happen here? It's like the one chance they get's going to go in. But as it was like it wasn't 3-0 because we gave that stupid goal away, but it went the way it should have gone. So yeah, you've got to be pleased with that.
Yeah. And Paul, Mo getting the second as well. Last night was his 254th goal in a Liverpool shirt. Like, it looks like we might be coming to the end with him as well. He's kind of closing in on Roger Hunt now, isn't he? What was Roger Hunt? 263?
Not sure.
It's close, isn't it? Something like that. Yeah. Ish.
You know, whether he makes that or not is, you know, he's got back in the goal. He's got 3 in his last few games, so hopefully that spurs him on to have a good end to the season. But one thing I saw from the Athletic last night is that, like, Manchester United's all-time top goal scorer with 253 was Wayne Rooney, and he's now scored more goals than anybody ever has for Manchester United. So you look at the United teams that Rooney played in and how successful they were over a long period of time, then I think that's something that you can attribute to Mo as just being another sign of his just absolute greatness and consistency over such a long period of time. And so much of the narrative at the moment has been about what we've lost from him or what he isn't anymore, and I think we're starting to get away from the fact of how great he has been for such a long period of time.
I'm so glad you said that, Chris, because I find it really distasteful the way some people are so quick to just focus on the negatives. I mean, listen, if anybody tries to argue that Mo has deserved his place in the team this season, then they're clearly not watching the same Liverpool team as me. But some people are just so disrespectful, in my view, of an absolute legend of the club, dismissive, almost derisory, some of the stuff I hear some people saying. I think...
Is this just Stu in the chat?
I think... I think, yeah, it was lovely to... I mean, any moment from Mo I always enjoy. He's certainly one of my favourite players of the last decade of this period, which says something when it was such a great period that we've had. Absolutely love him. I think I'm still not prepared in any sense to say that he's finished, as so many people are. He may be finished at Liverpool. I still wonder if there's a twist in that tale. I'm not sure he'll want to be forced out. He's got another season to go, but we'll see. That's just purely speculative. I mean, I think the one thing that really has irked me so much this season, with all the, you know, people will throw around how much money he's on. You know, Michael Edwards, who apparently spat his dummy out over Klopp, giving Jordan Henderson a big contract at the age of 30. Michael Edwards signed off on Mo getting this $500,000 a week. You know what I mean? The biggest contract's ever been given to any player in the history of the club. So, you know, this grand strategist crumbled. His principles crumbled when he was under a little bit of pressure from the fans last season. I must admit, when I was desperate for Mo to get a new contract, I think I said repeatedly on the pod at the time, I wanted Mo to get a new contract, but it had to be heavily incentivised. And I remember being shocked at the time. I think James Pearce said, I don't know, a few weeks after that deal was signed, that it's roughly $500,000 a week, and it's pretty much he gets $500,000 a week regardless. And that really surprised me. I thought they'd be moving him to maybe keep him on the same basic. Yes, give him the big pay rise, but the pay rise would be contingent on goals, performances. You know, the fact that the grand strategist gave him the contract that he spat his dummy out over Hendo getting a more modest version of when he was a younger player, and B, not incentivising it, really shocked me. And it definitely sticks in the craw the way Mo is being roundly dismissed by a lot of people. Interesting that lots of the great players who are pundits aren't. You know, they still see that mentality and class can carry you further than people think. But it remains to be seen what happens with Mo. I've got no doubt whatsoever the club wants him gone this summer. No doubt whatsoever. They want that off. They want that £26 million a year in wages back in the coffers. We'll see how that goes, but yeah, absolutely brilliant to see him score. I love the way his face lights up. after he scores. I love this, as I said earlier, the celebration with Robbo, fantastic. To see those two absolute club legends enjoying that moment together was great last night. I really enjoyed that. And I'm very, very much minded the way you are, Chris, that, you know, people have been quick to write him off. Let's actually celebrate an absolute giant of Liverpool Football Club while we've got him, and focus on that rather than the negatives, which, bear in mind as well, no one really wants to talk about the T word in relation to Mo's drop off, do they? You know, Trent left, and that's just kind of glossed over because everyone was so desperate to see the back of Trent in terms of the way he went. So yeah, I've got lots of thoughts about Mo, really, but certainly last night was a night to enjoy in that regard.
Yep. And Dave, I was just looking into those Rooney comparisons a little bit more. Like, you know, Rooney played 559 times for United, scored 253 goals, almost exclusively through the middle. And Mo's scored 254 in 127 less games. So, like, you know, it's the way he stacks up against the absolute greats of the last era or this century in terms of that, like, he's pretty much peerless.
Outrageous, that.
Yeah, well, for a wide player.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It is slightly different because the way we played, he's not a winger as such. He's a wide striker, isn't he? But still, you know, the numbers that he's put up have just been, like, unreal. And we spoke about this the other night on the pod that will never be heard. And I was saying, like, although his form this year has been, you know, it's been terrible for the most part. Let's not sugarcoat it. But the contract that he got, like, if he was earning this, the wages he's on now, if he was earning this like 2 years ago, you probably wouldn't. You'd be like, yeah, that's fine. The reason why people are like upset about it is because you're not getting bang for your buck, if you like. But that's not his fault. You know, him and his agent, good luck to them. They've somehow managed to get a big pay rise on. He was already like the top earner, one of the top earners in the country, and at his age to get that big increase in wages, it's almost unprecedented in some ways. So again, goes back to what Paul said. You know, Michael Edwards, this man of principle who doesn't give contracts to 30 plus. Look at Robbo now being phased out when he's still got, like, Robbo could still be here setting the tone and doing like the James Milner, Jordan Henderson thing.
Yeah.
Well, we're losing that because you're looking at the age, you're going, no. Now, the one exception that he's made to that is Mo, and it's backfired on the club, really, paying him the money. But the thing with Mo is, if, you know, like, in the past, so when Henderson got his contract and loads of people weren't happy about it, to me, it was like, Henderson's been underpaid virtually his whole time here. So if now, for the last couple of years, he's getting more than he's actually going to be delivering, that's fine for me. I'm okay with that. I can't really say that with Mo because he's been really well paid the whole time. He's been one of the top earners. But that, it is the money. I think the reason why people are getting, like, you know, Paul said, like, disrespectful and stuff, I don't see a great deal of, like, disrespectfulness, but I do see a lot of, like, people getting really frustrated by it, and it's like, you know, we're not getting, like, our money's worth and stuff. But that's not his fault. And what's happening to him is just, like, Josh Williams made a really good point on this, on that Redmen TV video I watched. He said, you know, wingers peak at 24, 25 generally. And he said, but Mo Salah was still playing at, like, a peak level at, like, 32. He's a freak in that regard. He's had, like, the longevity that most wingers don't have. But eventually, it catches up with everybody. He says, and that's what we've seen now. It's like, it's just taken a lot longer to catch up with him. And I go back to last season, like, the first half of last season, what he did was, like, it was almost superhuman. He was putting up numbers that even he had not done before. Yeah. And you're like, how's he doing that at 32? But I do think, like, that was maybe like a last hurrah. Like, he more or less single-handedly won us that title last year because his numbers in the first half of that season, nobody had ever done that before, including him. And that got us at, like, a 10-point cushion, which we kept for the rest of the season when Mo dropped off. And Paul made a point last night, like, second half of the season Mo is never first half of the season Mo. And Paul was saying, how much of that is Ramadan? And I know it's only a month or whatever it is, but what happens after that? You know, if you're taking off, like, maybe 5% of your normal level and you don't quite get that back, maybe that plays a part. in the drop off. We'll never know, but it is like the one common denominator in it is that, isn't it? You know, like he drops off every season. The end of the season is never as good as the beginning of the season. Now, hopefully it flips this time, because if the end of the season is worse than the beginning of the season this time, it's going to be brutal. So this is the one time we need it to flip.
Well, as Chris said, he's in a little purple patch, and he's scored a couple now. So
yeah. And he doesn't look great, but if he at least is putting up numbers, which he started to do again, he is finding the net. If he can just keep that going to the end of the season, that should hopefully be enough to. I don't even want to say get in the top 5, because that should be like a given. We should even be having to have that discussion. Really, I know we do have to have the discussion, but it shouldn't be the case. We have still got other things to play for. We've got the FA Cup and we've got the Champions League. Maybe Mo can still have like a moment. When we need it.
Do you know if he goes, Chris? I just hope he goes in the summer. I hope he goes through the front door rather than the back. Let this absolute fucking legend take his plaudits at Anfield when we all know, when everyone knows where we stand. I really would be so gutted if it was more like a Sadio. Where,
but do you think that's likely?
It's really hard to know, isn't it? I think probably not. It's probably not likely.
I think not likely, because they'll be waiting for offers, and that's not going to come in before the end of the season.
Yeah.
I think we'll know from the perspective. Mo will let us know, like he almost did when he was waving to the fans against Leeds, right? Like he'll have a way to say goodbye. He'll know and we'll know, but there won't be sort of like the old sort of presentation where it's his last game and we get to do like a mural for him and that kind of stuff. Like, I think we'll know, but we won't know.
He's not going to get a Trent send off where he's got the Premier League title in his hands, standing in front of the cop. He's not going to have that.
Do you know? One point I wanted to make on Mo is that his superhuman numbers last season. I think he knew, and we all know how much the personal accolades mean to him as much as the team success do. But I think last year he got a sniff for that Ballon d'Or that has eluded him disgracefully for his whole career at Anfield. And I think back to when we got knocked out by PSG last year and he was in tears on the pitch. That's not a reaction that we've seen from him very often, but I think he knew that Champions League success and Premier League success would have probably got him that, and I think that was partially the nature of his upset. He knew that was his last shout at that, and I think that superhuman effort in the first half of the season was also geared towards like, I'm going to show you bastards once and for all the player I am.
But he's emptied the tank.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I said this to Paul last night. The one thing that about him that is absolutely fucking incredible is that, you know, in this day and age when, like, even now, you know, players are having to be rested and left out, he could just play 90 minutes every game. He could. Yeah. I'm not saying he should, and, you know, his form does not merit that, but you never have it in your head where you think, okay, so I need to make some changes because we've played like 3 games in 6 days. Mo is not a factor in that ever. You just know, that's fine. I can put him out there. I'm going to have to look at maybe resting this player and that player. But he's 33, and that's still the case where you never have to think, probably need to take him out. He's going to be tired. It's incredible, like the fitness levels of him, and you know how he looks after himself and that. But how he looks after himself is a big part of it, but I also think he must just be like a physical freak as well.
Definitely.
Okay. Let's move on a bit then. Paul, moving on to another player that we really enjoy and you know, has had kind of a little bit of a rough deal lately is Curtis. A start for him last night. Thought he had a really good game in that kind of freer role that he got last night. Like, he was kind of always looking for the ball around everywhere. Thought he pressed really well. Like, our press isn't what it was, but like he sort of, certainly in the second half, and we were a little bit more intense, led the press quite a lot and deserved his goal as well. Yeah,
I mean, I think very early on, Dave and I when we saw where Curtis immediately went, I think it was the first minute or so where Curtis was quite advanced and almost playing a slight approximation of the Wirtz role. Just saying what a travesty it is that like Slotter's not had an understudy for Wirtz tactically, you know. So Harvey obviously went, and we both feel Harvey could have offered something in terms of approximating what Wirtz does, and then if not Harvey, Curtis the same. I love Curtis. I will never understand the people who sneer at him, or the people who just think, that phrase Dave used before, we can do better. I just don't think you can for a squad player. You cannot. It's someone who's happy to be someone who rotates in and out of the team, but to have significant minutes. He's not happy when he's like left out the team for like 7-8 games on the bounce, like has happened recently with him for no apparent reason.
Yeah.
But he's happy to start one, to come off the bench in another. Players like that have to be your bread and butter of a top squad. And I thought, in terms of the goal, again, I said this to Dave after the goal when we were watching it played back again immediately afterwards. It kind of was reminiscent of the Curtis that, well, Dave and I both loved watching him for the under-18s when he first came through. That sort of effortlessness, the way he would glide, the way everything's so technically easy, the ball's exactly where he wants it to be, rolls past challenges, and then just like passes it at pace into the net. He's really, really underrated player, I think, and even this idea that like people, there's this sort of like idea that he's inconsistent in some way. I don't even think he's inconsistent. I think he delivers all the time. He almost never gives the ball away, but people want to pounce on the slightest thing. And I think Dave said last night, it's the money thing. It's the fact that we didn't pay a fee. If we'd paid 70 million for him, people would be pairing about him. Or we paid even Macca money for him, they'd be pairing about him. But for me, I think
as well.
Yeah, I think he's had a better season than both of those two for me.
Yeah,
and I just he's another one. I don't know in what world Liverpool Football Club haven't got room for Curtis Jones coming into his peak years. It's insane to me. It just makes zero sense. It's people with some sort of weird agenda about what they want from football or footballers. It doesn't make. I mean, maybe that sounds utterly dismissive of another view, but yeah, I am dismissing that view. I think it's bizarre. I just don't. There's no part of me that could understand it. Love him, absolutely love him. He is exactly what he seems to be. A really talented Scouser living his dream. Why can't we celebrate that? And last night was very enjoyable in that regard.
And Paul, just to build on your point a little bit there as well, like giving him a new contract, it's not going to. We talked about this with Mo and the Henderson situation. That's not going to be a really expensive contract, is it? Like apparently he's on absolute buttons at the moment, so a decent raise would be good enough to keep hold of him. But you mentioned how he fit into the Wirtz role last night. That flexibility is not as common as well. Like we can drop him into fullback when we need. If you need him to operate as a dual six, he can as well. Like if you, I always say this, and it never has traction. I still think he could do a job as a false nine as well. Like I think he's that flexible, and he's just a footballer, isn't he? He's like a really accomplished, tactically astute footballer, and there aren't that many of them around that you can just slot in here and there, and they'll do the job for you to a high level.
Yeah, crazy. That's a great point, that, Chris, which I'd not really considered, but you're absolutely spot on. That we've been rightly lauding Dom for his consistency and flexibility, and yet we've got this Scouser who's also consistent and flexible, and like there's almost like a double standard. Now I think Dom's had a better season. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say that like Curtis had a better season than Dom. Dom has been head and shoulders our best player this season, but it just seems like there is a double standard there. That with the things that we respect and appreciate in one guy, are just sort of ignored or taken for granted in another, because of what I perceive to be preconceived ideas about him. Yeah, that's a great point about his flexibility. And when with like Joe Gomez, who's physically not up to, not capable, on his way out of the team, and James Milner is gone. Those players who can play multiple positions, we know if you want to win big trophies, are so important. You need to have one or two, preferably two players like that, who can offer you options in lots of different positions on the pitch, and also the homegrown thing. That's also a factor. And I believe the Scouse thing. Why would Liverpool Football Club not want a Scouser who's been with the club since the age of 8? Born and bred in Toxteth. Why would you not want that in the Liverpool first team?
Because it doesn't show on a spreadsheet. Like the influence on kids at the academy now. So Curtis grows up wanting to be Steven Gerrard, and he comes through into the team. There's loads of kids in that academy now wanting to be Curtis Jones, because it's an inspiration and it's a pathway for people coming through. And you take that away, it does damage. It just
Don't you
it
think there
does.
was a bit of that with Kieran Morrison when he celebrated with Curtis before Morrison came on? He still had his subs bib on.
I didn't know what was going on there. Someone pointed to the subs bench. What Virgil maybe, I don't know. One of the players pointed over to the subs and was like, come and join in the celebrations. And then it was Morrison. So
Yeah,
I don't know what.
I don't know specifically what precipitated it, but what I thought was interesting is in the light of what you just said there, Dave, that Morrison, there was a little bit of it was almost like my big brother, my hero sort of thing from Morrison to Curtis, and Curtis sort of arm round him, give him a bit of a nuggie on the head and stuff like that. You know what I mean? It did what you said then resonated in that moment.
So I've wrote about all of that in Blood Red this month. So you pick that up in all good news agents and some bad ones.
Yeah, nice plug there. And I've got a piece on Florian Wirtz in that same paper, and that's out now because I saw it in my local shop in Ponsbury, which is really cool because I used to work in there and I was paper boy for him as well, and now it's kind of I can go in there and see it. Yeah.
And you know what? I said to Dave last night, send us that article, but I'm going to go and try and find one in the newsagent today. There you go. Nice. What a hero I am. Support me, mates.
It's good. The whole thing's a good read, actually. It's I say actually, but the whole thing's a good read. It's really well put together, and some really interesting articles and some really good perspectives that, not to knock the Echo lads at all or the National lads at all, but there's some stuff that you don't necessarily see in the papers, fan-led pieces, and Adam Beasley usually has a good piece in there every month, and Robbo Highton, what's his actual name? Gareth Roberts always has a really good piece in there as well. So yeah, definitely check that out. Dave, I know what your answer is going to be to this, but we have to address it. No Mamadashvili again.
So I've changed my view on this now. So I said to Paul last night, a light bulb went off for me.
Yeah.
He must be shit. or not shit, but
slot shit.
Not as advertised. Because there's absolutely no reason whatsoever why he would not be playing the cup games unless Arne Slot thought, I don't fancy him. There's no other reason for it. You can't justify it. He's not come here to sit on the bench and never play. Okay, he comes in because he knows Alisson's first choice. He must have been under the impression he was going to get cup games. I'm not saying it's in his contract or anything, because that's not really how it's done. It's more like an agreement. But Slot picked Queeve in the cup games, didn't he? Not everyone. There was one or two where Alisson played, but that was because Alisson had come back from injury and needed the match fitness. But by and large, if it was a cup game, Kelleher was in goal, and that's changed now. And the only reason I can rationalise is that he's not that good. He's not what they thought, and I don't know that's the case. We've only seen him in limited games, and he's been fine. I don't think he's looked special or anything, and I have got concerns about 1v1s. He backs off too much, but he's not looked shit. I wouldn't look at him and go, oh, he's crap. I cannot understand any other reason why he would not be starting that game. And if it's not that, then it's really, really bad man management.
Don't you think there's a difference between shit and slot shit?
Yeah, there is.
Slot shit is just he'll inexplicably, in my view, take against a particular player and just won't touch him with a barge pole.
Yeah, he's Endo, Harvey, Joe Gomez, that kind of thing.
And I don't think we've had any shit.
But even they would play cup games though, Paul. That's the thing. If Endo was fit, Endo probably would have been on the pitch last night. He's played cup games. Why is Mamadashvili not playing?
But I take your point about the 1v1s. I think that's spot on. But when he played in the league when Alisson was injured earlier in the season, he didn't let us down.
No, he wasn't. You don't look at him and go, oh, he's a disaster, he's going to make loads of mistakes. And he's got a big reputation.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, the only reason that makes sense for him not playing is that his reputation is not necessarily warranted, and they've looked at him and gone, yeah, he's not what we thought.
So what I'm saying is, actually, maybe it's the Slot just takes against players sometimes in a way that others don't. I don't know, but certainly my perception is Slot has some views of players that I of certain players that I don't share. Now he's entitled to do that. It goes with the responsibilities of the job, but I don't agree with the view of lots of players in terms of how he deploys them.
Yeah, so I suppose that I'll rephrase it then. But what I agree with what you're saying, so I'll rephrase it. He's not playing because Slot thinks he's shit.
Yeah, I think that's a sensible conclusion to draw.
And he may or may not be right. I don't know. I'm not passing
Yeah.
any judgment on that.
Yeah,
but that's the only reason why you would not be playing him in the FA Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
And I don't like
God.
it. Let me state
We need
for
a
the
goalkeeper
record.
as well then.
Yeah. Well,
Add that to the fucking list.
2.
Yeah.
Because he's not going to stay as a backup. And if they move Alisson on, which they probably are, they want to save the wages again, then yeah, you're probably going to need 2 goalkeepers, because Mamardashvili, if he's not going to be first choice, he's not going to stay as second choice. There was actually a story recently that he's unhappy and wants to go, and it wasn't from a great source or anything, so I just dismissed it. But it does make you wonder now, is he thinking, nah, fuck this? So yeah, there's something else we got to deal with.
Nice. That's a nice little reminder to me to never shy away from asking you a question where I think I'm going to know the answer, because that's not what I expected you to say at all.
If you'd have asked me this time yesterday, you would have probably got a different answer. But it's just, as I say, the light bulb went off last night when we were watching it. I was like, the only reason he's not playing, Slot must think he's shit, because you just wouldn't. You look around the league and virtually every team plays the backup goalkeeper in the cup. Even if they put a full strength team out, they change the goalkeeper.
Well, Wolves
it's kind
did
of
last night.
it's an unwritten rule, isn't it? Like you back up, you get the cup games. So I just cannot fathom why that's happening.
I think with Slot as well, and Paul mentioned that he takes a view on players. I don't think you really get the chance to reverse that view, don't you? Once he's taken that view, I think it's like one strike and you're out kind of thing. Like he'd be a terrible baseball umpire.
Quansah.
The Jarrell Quansah.
Yeah.
The Jarrell Quansah take.
Some mad stories this week that we're looking at paying 80 million to get him back.
Yeah.
Why did we do that when we negotiated a buyback for the year after for 50? And we've already agreed contract terms, and it's all in place if we decide to activate it in 12 months. Why would we pay an extra 30 million to get him this summer?
The genius of Michael Edwards, give Mo half a
If
million
he did
quid a week.
that would be like the most stupid deal of all time. And that's not in any way a reflection on Jarrell Quansah.
No.
That's Mo's salary taken care of there anyway. Yeah. Gosh. All right. Okay. Anything more from last night that you guys want to pick up on before we have a quick look ahead to the Champions League on Tuesday?
I just want to talk about friendship, really, Chris.
Oh, God.
How you try to do your mates a favour, and when you're all getting together for a bite to eat and have a drink to watch the game, and some of them let you down. So I'm about to leave ours last night, getting the train over. Kath dropped me at the station. And text comes in from Dave.
I think I need to give my version, because your version is completely 100% accurate. I'm not disputing your version, but I feel like before you like throw me to the wolves, my side needs to go across.
These wolves are chomping at the bit, so go on.
Hold on. Paul started the story.
Oh, but that's not fair.
The wolves are waiting. No, absolutely it's fair. Go on.
So I'm coming from Birkenhead Park. We live about a mile from Birkenhead Park Station. Well, Kath dropped me down there because we were tight for time. We got in from work and had a few bits to do, so we need to get out again. We were meeting at 6:30. And David said, are you getting the train? I'm going into Moorfields. And obviously Dave's coming from McGull, so it's a different line. So I'm coming on the Wirral line. So I would normally, we were going to a boozer on James Street, and James Street Station is literally next door to the pub we were going to. So I said, all right, mate, yeah, I'll come and meet you. What time's your train getting in? I said, I can get one that gets in about 6:15. And I said, what about you? And he says, I'm on the way to the station now. I can't get off at James Street though, it's not on the route. So I said, sound okay, I'll see you there. Meaning, I'll see you at Moorfields. I've already said in this message, I'll come and meet you. And then fucking tumbleweed. And so I get there at the time I said I was going to be there. And I send a message at 6:19, you here yet? Nothing. 6:20, I'm at the main entrance. And meanwhile, in the other chat, Al has arrived in the pub and said the table's on the left. So I'm also doing like a little summary, a little commentary in the main chat, just cover me bases, make sure Al knows that I'm waiting for Dave. Sort of 15 minutes later, a message from Dave, we're inside on the left. Like, you're fucking joking.
It wasn't 15. Paul, you're doing me a favour there. It wasn't 15. It was longer than that.
So 15 after I arrived, So I've gone fucking past the station that I could get off at, that's literally next door to the pub, to go and meet Dave, to walk back with him and have a chat. And he's fucking tucking into his fucking chips and fries in the alehouse. And then Al must have...
Slightly not true, but...
Al being related to Dave, I think, was just enjoying the fact that someone else was on the receiving end of Usher time and Usher organisation. Al thought it was fucking hilarious. Fucking hell.
No, my time was good. That wasn't the issue. I was determined I was getting there on time because you'd been taking little pot shots about Usher time and that, and I thought, I'm not going to be late. I'll fucking show him. So all of that is true.
I love the way the only time that you're motivated to actually live up to your word and be somewhere on time is when you've got a fucking point to prove.
Right, so I'm not disputing any of that. Every single bit of that is true. Now, the reason for it was... it's true, I messaged him and I said about Moorfields, and then I'm reading the message as I'm getting on the train, and I read the message as I'll see you there, as in I'll see you at the pub, because I didn't see the message above that which had said, oh, I'll get off at Moorfields. So I'd seen the previous message which said about like James Street, and I'd not seen the next bit, or I'd skim read it and I'd missed the part where he said about Moorfields. So I seen I'll see you there, and I'm not gonna lie, there's a part of me thinking, you fucking ass, you're not even going to meet me. But I'm like, it's fair enough because it is right next to the pub, and why would he go out of his way? So I dismissed that.
It was fucking cold last night as well.
No, it was all right. It wasn't too cold. I was fine. I didn't even have a jacket on.
Freezing.
But I did think there's a part of me thought, I thought he would have met me. That's a bit off. But then I thought, no, you know what? It is right next to the station, so why would he go like 15 minutes walk in the other direction when he doesn't need to? So I get there, and I got there for about 6:15. I think, no, my train got in, I got in about 25 past maybe, and Al orders food and that, so like I had to drink, food come. I'd not looked at my phone. And it was just me, Al, and Al's lad Jaden. We were the only ones there at this point. I'm thinking, I thought Paul would have been here by now, because like he's only getting off at James Street. He's like right next door. And then I never looked at my phone until about 22, and I see a message like 6:20 saying like, I'm outside. You know, where are you? I'm outside. And it still didn't twig. So then I replied, yeah, could just come in, we're at a table on your left. And then the next message, are you fucking messing? I'm stood outside Moorfields. And I'm showing it to Al. Al's laughing his head off. I genuinely felt terrible. I was mortified. I felt really bad to the point where I didn't even eat me chips. I didn't. Paul, when you got there, my bowl of chips was still full. Now, my bowl of fries was empty, don't get me wrong. But my bowl of chips wasn't. I hadn't touched it because I thought, I can't just finish all my food before Paul gets here. That's going to look really bad. I better leave something. So, and I did, and I'm looking at the time, I'm like, and I'm working it out in my head, I'm like, he's been stood outside Moorfields for 20 minutes, just like stood there doing nothing while I'm sat here, and then he still had to walk from Moorfields, like the extra 10-15 minute walk, and I felt terrible. I'm not making any excuses, I'm not saying it's funny or anything like that, it's not. I felt bad, it was completely on me for not reading the messages properly. And yeah, I'll hold my hands up and take responsibility for it. And like, Paul, I am genuinely sorry.
No, Tom, I know. It's not the end of the world. It's Chris. It is true that he held his hand up, because the last thing I put in the group chat was, Dave said, "You're at Moorfields. I thought you said you'd meet me there at the pub." "Sorry, mate." I went, "You're a fucking tit." And Dave goes, "Yeah, that's fair."
Because I read back through the messages, I was like, "Oh shit, he did say that."
Do you know on the sly who's done me is Al, who's quite clearly sitting there just enjoying the whole thing through the messages. He's sitting next to you, saying he's clearly seeing it and thinks it's all fucking hilarious.
Oh, he did think it was hilarious.
Yeah. We had a good night though, didn't we? It was good seeing people like Phil Longo, who've kind of like known off the forum for like 25 years, but then like meet him in the flesh for the first time. That was really sound.
Is that the first time you've met Longo?
Yeah. Weird, isn't it?
Oh,
I mean,
man.
there've been so many times where we've probably been in the vicinity of each other and never actually met before. And I've chatted online a million times, you know what I mean, on Twitter or on the forum. But it was great. I really enjoyed it. It was really good. And as I said, I found just watching. My mood about watching Liverpool recently has been fucking horrendous. Either going to Anfield for all the home games or watching on telly. So just going to the pub and having a laugh with the boys and having a couple of beers helped. Well, it also helped that we played a little bit better and we got a decent win. It was a good night, Dave, wasn't it?
Yeah, I also need to say here at this point though, when you were leaving, you know what he did, Chris? He fucked off with Longo and he went to James Street to go home because I went, if you're going to Morpheus, Paul, I'll walk with you. And he went, no, I'm going to James Street. And I thought, all right, like that is it, okay. Nice. So I had to walk to Morpheus on my own.
Do you know how long it took us to get from where we were sitting to the train?
About 30 seconds.
30 seconds, yeah.
Jeez. At least you got your steps in for the day, Paul, anyway. So.
Yeah.
Definitely. Shout out to Longo as well, man. What an absolute legend. One of my favourite people associated with Liverpool. Just love him. Just a great lad. And
great guy.
Wish I was there last night. Now, where'd you go? You recommend it for watching the game there?
The Old Bank, is it, Dave?
Yeah.
On James Street.
Right.
Yeah, it was sound. Food was all right. I mean, Dan's the food connoisseur, and Dan went for a puddo. Dan arrived late and had to work quickly. Had the burger, then had the sticky toffee pudding as well, and enjoyed the lot.
The man who calls Aldi Watsits lunch is a food connoisseur. You guys are fucked, man.
Yeah, Dan's not a food connoisseur. I don't know what you're talking about there. He's less of he's probably more of a food connoisseur than I am, but there's not that much in it.
No, you're just a chip connoisseur there.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Well, I'm glad you were able to air your grievances there, Paul. I still don't know how Dave coming in first on that would have sort of been mitigating in any way, shape or form.
Because it was just
nothing you'd have said there would have been.
It was about not reading the message. Initially I thought it was miscommunication and I'd misunderstood, and it wasn't. I'm looked at and go, oh no, it was clear. He did clearly state. I just didn't see that message. So that's all it was. It was my fault for not reading the message properly.
Okay, good on you for.
Do you know what it kind of reminded me of though? It's a totally different scenario, but it made me think, and it's because you brought it up the other day, the whole Derby away incident.
Yeah. Oh man,
I don't remember the exact details of it, but we were getting the coach to Derby. We were getting Barnes Travel coach to Derby, and somehow I've looked at the tickets. And I've looked at the price and read it as, the coach ticket. I've looked at the coach ticket and read like the price as the time. So it might have been like $12.50, like the price of the ticket. And I've looked at that and gone, yeah, the coach is like $12.50. And we turned up and the coach had fucking gone. And then I'm looking at the ticket like, oh shit, I was looking at the price. Look, there's the time. So we had to make our way to Lime Street and get a train to Derby and then run from like the train station to the ground. And like, I think we got in just after kickoff, didn't we? A few minutes after. Yeah, but yeah.
I think we got in time for the goal, which was like after a couple of minutes, as Steve Kelly pointed out, like Michael Owen scored really early, and then we just spent the whole game defending it, and then Jersey had to save a Ravanelli penalty in stoppage time.
I remember the penalty save. I don't think I've seen the goal because I was still getting oxygen from having to run from the train station to the ground. The paramedics were sorting me out at that point.
Nice. Our first and only visit to Pride Park. Yeah, it's still a good day there, but that's kind of the stuff you remember as well, isn't it? So years from now, Paul, when we've won the FA Cup, you'll be like joyfully reminiscing about that half an hour that you stood outside Moorfield Station before the game. All right, I've got a few minutes before I have to Scarpa, lads, so if you guys want to carry on, but like a quick look ahead to Galatasaray on Tuesday night. We're in that kind of like MEF time slot, aren't we? The 4:45 kickoff one, which I never like us seeing in. Feels like a little bit of a demotion, but it is in Turkey, so you know the time kind of works out in that perspective.
What
are you expecting from that one?
It's 6 p.m, isn't it?
4:45.
I think it's 6 p.m.
Is it?
5:45,
Yeah, it is 5:45. Yeah. What are we expecting?
What are you expecting?
I mean, Dave has talked as I think I've made clear, I'm less confident about our Champions League progress as a lot of the other lads are. But you can't deny the point that Dave and John particularly have made that, you know, we put in much better performances in Europe and that European football suits us better. I mean, it's 2 legs helps. Coming back to Anfield, second leg helps. I mean, I probably expect us to go through. But I still have this overriding sense that like you just cannot rely on this team and this manager for anything at the moment. So I a little bit cautious, but I think come away from there with anything other than a defeat, and that's fine. So yeah, whether we'll go there and win, don't know. But certainly, I think if we avoid defeat, bring them back to Anfield, we'll be absolutely fine.
Yeah. All I'm expecting is considerably better than the last time we went there. So a win, even a draw is fine, as Paul said. I'm not worried about getting knocked out by Galatasaray. I would be pretty shocked if that happened.
Yeah, because look at what Juve did there. Like they battered them with 10 men for 60 minutes. You know, so and it was 1-0 when they reduced to 10 men, and then 3-0. Yeah. By the time extra time came around, and they had chances to go ahead further in that game and didn't take them. So I think that Galatasaray game last time came in the midst of the depths of everything we were experiencing, really, with that drop off and that losing run that we had. And that penalty was never a fucking penalty in a million years. So I'm fully expecting us to go there and win quite comfortably, really. Like, just go ahead. We could even do like a Frankfurt style thing where we go there and just fucking batter them, because I wouldn't
be shocked. No.
Yeah. It'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I think they're probably marginally better than Frankfurt, but not massively so.
No, and I think they'll have the lads. You know, we talked about it in relation to this game. When the lads feel like they have a bit of a point to prove, they tend to kind of show up a little bit more, don't they? So, you know, why that's the case, why they can't just do that in the fucking first place, is beyond me. But, like, you know, I fully expect us to go there and put in not necessarily a performance, but a convincing win in terms of the scoreline. We got Hugo to come back in fresh as well. Hopefully Florian starts that game after his little cameo last night. That's something we haven't talked about, but really good to get him back on the field last night.
Frimpong back in as well, maybe.
Yep, Frimpong. Yep, absolutely. And I like the team with those 3 coming into it, and obviously Ibu will start as well. Not that Joe did anything wrong last night, other than his one-sided goal that went the way it normally does. But there's a little bit more to the squad now, hopefully, with those 3 lads coming back in, and you know, Wirtz and Frimpong and who else?
Hugo
coming back to fitness. Hugo, as well. So good stuff. I think we'll go there and do the job.
Yeah, and even if we don't, we've still got the chance to turn it around the second leg anyway. So I'm not worried. Yeah. More worried about playing Spurs at the weekend, which is ridiculous given how shit they are. But it would just be like the ultimate humiliation. Like if you know, everyone says about Dr. Spurs, and it's like if Dr. Slaughter's the one that like fixes Spurs. So, but yeah, we'll worry about that. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Yeah. I mean, that would be a low point, wouldn't it, to not beat Tottenham? Fucking hell, like, Jesus, they're going to go down, aren't they?
Yeah, it looks like, honestly.
I think so, yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. You look at those fans the other night there, and the reaction after the game was like they're already down. It was like 60,000 condemned men and women just acknowledging their fate, that they're absolutely screwed. You look at Forest. Sorry, Paul.
Did you see just on how shocking it would be? Not in terms of the team, because I agree with what you said. I think they're going to go down. But 9th richest club in the world last year got one of the most. They've got arguably well, they certainly got the most modern stadium in the world. One of the best stadiums in the world. Biggest money generating stadium in the world. They could easily be taking that to the Championship next season. That's mad. That's a real shock. That's an all time in the history of English football shock. In its own way, that's as wild as Leicester winning the league, Spurs getting relegated. It's a big story, that, and also I have to admit, even though I've got no beef with Spurs whatsoever, like, it is borderline hilarious as well.
Yeah.
And I'm not one of these banter merchants where it's all about taking the piss out of others, but it just is. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Mad if they go down.
If they don't go down, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it.
No,
but if they do, I'll find it hilarious.
Yeah.
Very much feeling sorry for themselves at the moment, and that managerial appointment will go down as one of the worst ever in the history of English football. Everybody looked at that and went, nah, not in the situation you lads are in, bringing in somebody from fucking Serie A with no experience in the Premier League that isn't much of a name, that's not going to be able to motivate those players. Fucking massive risk. I think they've got to get shut of him like right now if I was them.
There's
Like,
talk
get him
that they
now.
are. But all
they-
Spurs fans were ringing up the radio last night, and some were calling for Glenn Hoddle, some were calling for Harry Redknapp.
Who's nearly 80.
Yeah, and I
Tim
can't remember
Sherwood.
that there was. Tim Sherwood was another one. Yeah.
Sean Dyche is
Gazza.
what they need.
There was,
Press the Sean Dyche
they
button.
were just going down that we need a club legend who understands it. I'm like, yeah, but the players are not going to give a shit about that, are they? They're not going to relate to it. But that's how desperate they are. I make them favourites to go down. Everyone else is picking up
Yeah.
points except them.
Well, it's only a point now, isn't it? Like 2
Yeah,
weeks ago, they
yeah.
had like a 6-point cushion or something, and everybody's like, they better be fucking careful. Now
I
they're
don't
right
even
in
want
it.
to say too much though, because this could come back to haunt us in a big way
Yeah.
next week.
It's all content anyway,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah, I think that at least if they got Hoddle in, they'd have the Lord on their side, and they need a fucking miracle there. So
But it's like, yeah, let's just bring in somebody who had a heart attack on like just being a pundit. Let's stick him on the touchline during the most stressful period in the club's history. Can anyone see the flaw in that? I mean,
gosh, all right. Anything else you guys want to add before we wrap this up?
no. Other than to say, you just missed a load of good stuff the other night. All honesty, Paul, I thought we did a really good pod the other night. Covered loads.
Yeah,
of
I
good
enjoyed
stuff.
it, mate. It was good.
And
Yeah.
unfortunately, yeah.
Goes down in legend. We'll have to work on the hat-trick ghost pod now, Dave. Now we've got 2 under our belts.
Maybe the Tottenham one next week.
Yeah,
Oh,
if we
I was
lose
just-
and that mysteriously disappears, then
on like the note about like the pod the other night that went missing, I need to shout out Nav Bassi's tweet about it. And he
Yeah, sorry.
said, "Don't worry about it. This game will probably appear as like a Time Team podcast with Dan in a few years' time." That was great. That made me laugh.
I love it. I love it when we get stuff like that shows people are really paying attention
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
actually like listening intently and stuff.
Yeah.
So, like any little piss takes that we get.
Yeah, my
on that
mate,
front is
my mate Neil, who I went to school with and been mates for like 40. I've known him for like going on 50 years. Been mates for over 40 years. He lives in Canada now. Got a text off him before the game last night. Where was the pod on Wednesday? Are you do after the game? Will we get one tonight? And he's over in Canada and like sort of like desperate for the content. That was really nice to just see that we are appreciated. It was great.
Yeah,
definitely.
so we love you all for listening and commenting and that. Except for the negative comments, you can fuck off. But all the positive ones, we love you all.
Yeah. All right. Nice one, guys. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Paul. Good to chat to you guys as always. Looking forward to seeing you next weekend at Anfield for Spurs. We'll be back after Tuesday night. It's a nice early kickoff, so we will be able to get the pod in hopefully Tuesday night.
Yeah.
But until then, yeah, Dave, yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right, cool. Until then, we'll catch you soon.